So the goal is to now get a token from the backend. And we're using Firebase, but the approach of course works with any backend, given that the backend has appropriate API endpoints to connect to. If you're looking for instructions on how to validate a user email on the server, how to create that token, that's the wrong course. This has nothing to do with React and therefore isn't covered here. A general API building course for your server-side language of choice would be more appropriate, since you should learn things like that in such courses. Or you take a full stack React course, of course. I will show you the React side. And Firebase, the easy-to-use backend we are using, gives us authentication out of the box. If we click on authentication there, we have to set up a sign-in method. And there I can choose email and password. This will store the user data in our own Firebase project. I click on enable there and save this. And now we can reach certain REST API endpoints to sign up users and get a token. To find out to which address we need to send that, it's not our database address we used thus far, we simply can Google for Firebase REST auth. And here it's the second result, the Firebase auth REST API. Here you find to which API endpoints you can send your authentication data to sign a user up or in. So let's start with signing up. And here you see that we have to send a post request to this endpoint here. So I'll copy that endpoint and now I want to send a request. We could create another Axios instance for this. We definitely can't use the Axios orders instance because here we have a base URL, which would be wrong. But I'll use the default Axios service and not the instance here, and also create not a new one because I only will send 2 requests, so I don't really need to set up that base URL thing. In the auth file in my actions folder, I'll now therefore import Axios from the Axios package, and then I can start sending requests. So here in the auth action creator, in that function we return, I'll reach out to Axios, send a post request to the URL I just copied. Now there we have this strange API key. We have to replace that with the API key of our Firebase project. You can find this in your Firebase project if you click on authentication and there on web setup in the top right corner. It's this key here, this whole key you can see there. API key. Copy the whole key without the quotation marks and replace the squared brackets with API key in between with that key. This identifies your application to Firebase. Now this posts data there. The data we need to post can be found in the documentation we just were on. We need to pass a JavaScript object, which will be transformed to JSON by Axios automatically, which has an email, a password, and this return secure token property. The return secure token property is a boolean and indicates whether we want to get a token or not. It should always be true as it says here. And password and email should be clear. So let's go back to our application then, and let's set up some auth data here, a JavaScript object, where we set up an email property which holds the email we receive as an argument. The same for the password. And last but not least, let's set this return secure token to true. And it's this auth data object which I then want to attach to this post request. So as a second argument to the post method, I'll pass auth data. Axios then gives us a promise, so we can call then and catch. In the catch case, I want to log that error and I also want to dispatch auth fail, executed as a function. In the success case, we'll get a response. I want to log that response and I want to dispatch auth success here, like this. I also will pass the response onto, or the response data, so the data we get in the response onto auth success and the error onto auth fail. Let's now save this and see if it works. Let's head over to our application and enter some valid sign up data again. Hit submit and we see auth start and auth success. And if we go to the console, we see what we got back on a successful authentication request. In data, we got back information how long the token is valid. So 3,600 seconds, that's 1 hour. Then the ID token itself, this long cryptic string, which can be decrypted to a JavaScript object if we want to. Then this refresh token, which is used to get a new ID token, because as you can see, the ID token expires relatively fast after 1 hour for security reasons, but you can generate a new one with the refresh token, but only you in your application can do that, of course. So these are our options. We also see the email address for which we created the user. And on our Firebase backend, if we go to authentication and we refresh this users page, we see the user with his ID that was generated automatically in here. So this is how we sign users up. And I didn't add validation, so let's see what happens if I enter an invalid password. We can still click the submit button. Now we get an error here. And in the error, if we have a look at the action here, in the error itself, we got a scrolling issue here as it seems. We got data about the error where we have a message where it says that the password is not long enough. In the console, we will also see this if we click on the erroneous request and inspect it here. We see it here in the response preview too. So in our error, we got this message, this issue. So this is what we get back on sign up requests. And importantly, we have that token and that refresh token as well as the expiry time. We should use that information to authenticate ourselves for subsequent requests. But before that, let's make sure that we also can log in.